The NBA has 82 games in the regular season to determine the best teams come the playoffs. Usually, how a team performs throughout the regular season is a good indicator in how they'll perform in the postseason. If we look at the stats, we can see just how true this is. Out of the 156 teams that have had the privilege of playing in the NBA Finals, 90 of them were seeded first, with 52 of them eventually going on to become the champs. Two seeds have gone on to win the finals a total of 16 times, with 39 total teams making it to the finals. That gives us a total of 68 championships between the first and second seeds. But every so often, we see a team that flips the script. They win a game or a series they were never supposed to win. A team no one expected to make noise pulls off something great. These are the teams that we're going to be talking about today. Going into the 2011 playoffs, the Grizzlies managed to find their way into the 8th seed, losing the 7th seed tiebreaker with the New Orleans Hornets. As the lowest seeded team, they had the misfortune of going against the Spurs, who still had their big three of Duncan, Ginobili, and Parker. The Spurs won 61 games that season, being just one game behind the top seeded Bulls in the East. At this point in Grizzlies' 16-year history, they had never managed to win a playoff series, and this wasn't expected to change now. Game 1 was a battle that the Grizzlies barely managed to pull out of. They beat the Spurs 101-98, being led by 29-year-old Zach Randolph, dropping 25 and 14. This wasn't anything to be worried about though. After all, the Spurs were one of the best teams in the league. So what if they dropped one game? Game 2 reassured this, with the Spurs winning 93-87. However, Game 3 and 4 went right back to the Grizzlies, winning 91-88 and 104-86. The Spurs were now on the edge of elimination, and they knew it. Game 5 in San Antonio again went to the Spurs. Manu Ginobili dropped a series-high 33 points that game, keeping San Antonio's hopes alive. But Game 6 returned to Memphis, and the Grizzlies hadn't lost at home all series. Randolph went off again, scoring 31, and Memphis sealed the upset with a 99-91 victory, winning the 6-game series 4-2. The Grizzlies' first ever playoff series win, knocking off one of the NBA's greatest and most consistent dynasties of all time. Unfortunately, the Grizzlies would go on to lose a hard-fought 7-game series against the Thunder in the next round. But that doesn't take away from their historic victory against such a great team. Before 1994, no 8 seed had ever won a playoff series in NBA history. But eventually came the Denver Nuggets. The 93-94 Nuggets won 42 games, earning them the last seed in the playoffs. In the first round, they got to face off against the star-studded Seattle Supersonics, who boasted a league-best record of 63-19. This series was supposed to be a sweep, and that's exactly what it looked like after the first 2 games. Seattle commanded Game 1 and 2, winning 106-82 and 97-87. With the first round still being just a best of 5 at this point, Seattle only needed one more win to close out the series. In Game 3, Reggie Williams went off for 31 points, helping the Nuggets secure a 110-93 win. Game 4 wasn't much different, with LaFonso Ellis scoring 27 points and grabbing 17 rebounds, helping secure a 94-85 win. The series was now tied 2-2. Win or go home for both teams. The pressure was on for the Sonics. No 1 seed had ever lost in the first round before. Were they really going to be the first? The game was a battle the whole way through. By halftime, the Supersonics led 44-41. By the end of regulation, the score was tied, 88-88. By the end of OT, the Nuggets had pulled it off. They won 98-94, pulling off the first ever victory against a 1 seed. After the game, Mutombo gave us one of the most iconic Underdog clips of all time, lying on the ground, clutching the basketball, and grinning in disbelief and joy. In that series, Mutombo recorded a whopping 31 blocks, setting the record for most blocks in a series at the time. The Nuggets went on to lose in the second round, but they had already made their mark, completing the biggest upset to date. This next series is arguably one of the most iconic Underdog stories of all time. In 2007, the Dallas Mavericks were the favorite to win it all. They entered the playoffs with a ridiculous 67-15 record, by far the best in the NBA. Dirk Nowitzki had arguably the best year of his career, winning MVP, and the team had fallen short just last season against the Heat in the finals. This season, they were expected to cruise through the West and play in the finals again. Their first opponent was the Golden State Warriors, having only 42 wins on the season. The last time the Warriors had even been to the playoffs was in 1994, and they got swept in the first round. They should have just been happy to be there. But this matchup was terrifying for Dallas. The Warriors had beaten the Mavs in all 3 of their regular season games. Don Nelson, Golden State's head coach, had literally coached Dirk in the Mavs just a few seasons ago. And the Warriors' small ball style completely threw Dallas off. The Warriors started the series off strong with a 97-85 win in Dallas. But the Mavs quickly bounced back, taking Game 2 112-99. Now the Warriors were in Golden State and took home both games. They now led 3-1, needing just one more win to close out the series. The Mavericks took home Game 5 in a hard-fought 6-point win. The Warriors, determined to finish the series, won Game 6 by a massive 25 points. The Warriors didn't just beat Dallas in that Game 6, they dismantled them. They became the first 8 seed to win a 7-game series against a 1 seed. And to this day, the We Believe run stands as one of the loudest, rowdiest, and most beloved upsets in NBA history. They lost in the next round, but honestly, it didn't really matter. They had already made history. Up to this point, we've mostly been talking about single-game series that teams have won. None of these teams really went on to make any more noise in the playoffs after that first round. All their wins were still impressive, just not as shocking as the runs we're going to be talking about now. And to start this off, we have the most recent story of underdog success, the 2023 Miami Heat. No one, and I mean no one, expected the Miami Heat to do anything crazy in 2023. They barely made the playoffs. They lost their first game of the play-in against the Hawks, and were at risk of missing out entirely if they lost to the Bulls. But they didn't, and they got to face the Bucks in the first round. With Giannis essentially only playing in Game 4 and 5, Jimmy Butler and the Heat had very little trouble getting past the Bucks. Jimmy helped finish the Bucks in the last 2 games, dropping 56 and then 42, averaging nearly 38 points for the series. After their 4-1 win against Milwaukee, they had to face the 5th-seeded Knicks. Still quite a young team with little playoff experience, the Knicks just couldn't seem to match up against the Heat. They were able to seal Games 2 and 5, and despite Jalen Brunson's 41-point Game 6, they just couldn't hold on, losing that game 96-92. Though the Knicks put up a better fight than the Bucks, their fate was all the same, being knocked out of the playoffs. Next up, in the conference finals, was the 2-seeded Celtics, who were the favored champs going into the season. The season prior, the Celtics had lost 4-2 against the Warriors in the finals, and they were desperate to get back. According to ESPN, the Celtics were a 97% favorite going into the series. The series started off as a bloodbath, the Heat going up 3-0. The Celtics, though, refused to go down without a fight, taking 3 in a row themselves. The series was now tied 3-3, and a nerve-wracking Game 7 was in order. Despite home court advantage, Boston just couldn't keep fighting, and the Heat took Game 7, winning 103-84. Their finals opponent, the Denver Nuggets, were just too much for the Heat to handle. Though they managed to win Game 2, the series went 4-1 to the Nuggets. Nonetheless, they were an 8 seed from the play-in. They beat the 1 seed, the 5 seed, and the 2 seed, all without home court advantage. This Heat team made history, becoming only the second ever 8th seed to make the finals. One of the greatest underdog runs the league has ever seen, and definitely the most memorable in recent years. Though the Heat's run was historic, they weren't actually the first 8 seed to make it to the NBA Finals. Before that, the 1990 Knicks pulled it off for the first time ever. That year was a lockout-shortened season with just 50 games total, and the Knicks managed to stumble to a 27-23 finish. They grabbed the 8 seed in the East and drew the top seed to Miami in the first round. This wasn't just any matchup either. The Knicks and Heat was one of the most heated rivalries of the 90s. Every game was physical, emotional, and borderline violent. In the last 2 seasons, these teams met in the playoffs. The Heat won the series in 97, and the Knicks won in 98. This was sort of their tiebreaker, so you knew both of them were fighting tooth and nail to take that series. The first 4 games went back and forth, splitting the series 2-2, and making Game 5 a win-or-go-home for both teams. Game 5 was exactly what you would have expected, down to the very last play. With 4.5 seconds left, New York was down 76-77, but they had possession and they were inbounding the ball. They toss it in to Allen Houston, who knocks down a mid-range, leaving the Heat with just 0.8 seconds, and giving the Knicks a ticket to the second round where they got to face the Atlanta Hawks. The 4-seeded Hawks barely put up a fight, getting swept. Then came the Indiana Pacers. The Knicks won Game 1, but in Game 2, Patrick Ewing tore his Achilles, making him miss the rest of the season. Despite being down their star player, New York found a way to beat out the Pacers in 6, and became the first ever 8 seed to make it to the finals. Without their best player, the Knicks just couldn't hold on against the Spurs, losing the series in 5 games. Though they lost, their legacy will forever be cemented as the first bottom seed to ever make it to the biggest stage, and it remains one of the most improbable playoff journeys the league has ever seen. In the 50s and 60s, the Celtics had one of the greatest dynasties of all time, winning 11 championships in the time span. These teams, of course, were all led by Bill Russell. The 69 season wasn't supposed to be anything special for the Celtics, as Bill Russell was 35 and this ended up being his last year before retiring from the sport. Going into the postseason, the team was the 4 seed, which at the time was the lowest seed that made the playoffs. The first round was against the Sixers, who they beat 4-1. Next up was the top-seeded Knicks, who they managed to knock out in 6 games. Now, the finals. It was a showdown against the Los Angeles Lakers, a team loaded with Wilt Chamberlain, Jerry West, and Elgin Baylor. The Lakers started strong, winning the first 2 games, but the Celtics immediately came back, winning their next 2. The Lakers then took Game 5, but the Celtics took Game 6, forcing a Game 7. The game was close, and despite Jerry West's 42 points, the Celtics came out on top, 108-106, winning their 11th ever championship. The 1969 Celtics weren't the best team that year, but they had the greatest winner the game had ever seen, and that was enough. This team was the lowest seed to ever win a championship. That is, until 1995. Potentially the most infamous underdog run in NBA history, and maybe even in all of sports, the Houston Rockets came into the 95 playoffs looking nothing like defending champions. They won only 47 games that season, 15 games behind the 1-seeded Spurs. Their record placed them as the 6th seed, nearly ensuring that they wouldn't be going back-to-back. Round 1 was against the 60-win Jazz, who had Prime, Stockton, and Malone. It was a hard-fought 3-2 series that the Rockets barely came out of. The next round was against the 2-seeded Suns, who were actually the favorites going into the year. This round wasn't any easier than the last, with the Suns taking a 3-1 lead. The Rockets managed to claw their way back and forced a Game 7. The game was extremely close, being tied at 110 with only 20 seconds left. The Rockets had possession and found Mario Eli open in the corner. He hits it. The kiss of death, effectively winning the game for Houston. Both teams traded foul shots before the end of the game. The final score was 115-114, sending the Rockets to the Western Conference Finals against the top-seeded Spurs. The Spurs were led by David Robinson, league MVP, but that didn't seem to matter. Hakeem absolutely embarrassed Robinson, averaging 35 and 12 alongside 4 blocks a game. This matchup lasted just 6 games, and the Rockets were going to the finals. Emerging from the East was the Magic's young duo, Shaquille O'Neal and Penny Hardaway, seeded first after winning 57 regular season games. Due to their inexperience on such a big stage, the Magic absolutely crumbled against the defending champs, being swiftly defeated in just 4 games. That meant the 6th seed won the finals, the lowest to ever do it, and the only team to do it without home court advantage in a single series. The 95 Rockets are the underdog story, the team that beat the odds. Every year, playoffs remind us that regular season records don't always tell the full story. Matchups and momentum matter. From scrappy 8 seeds toppling giants to veteran squads pulling off one last miracle run, these underdogs prove that seeding is just a number. So next time your team barely makes the playoffs, don't count them out just yet, because every so often, teams make something special happen. Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed, please consider liking and subscribing. If you have any suggestions for what video you want to see me do next, please let me know in the comments below. See you in the next video.